Today on Locked On Canadians, we talk about the week that was and the week that's coming up, but most importantly, we have heaps of praise for Arber Xhekaj.
You are Locked On Canadians, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadians. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined as always by my wonderful co-host Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. And today we're going to talk about that unfortunate loss to the Detroit Red Wings, but more importantly, Arber Xhekaj has put together some of his most impressive performances of late in the last few games. So we really want to talk about that. We're going to talk about our Habs weekly recap as we do every Monday. But because there's a Monday game, our weekly forecast is also coming on the Monday episode. And so let's get right into that game against Detroit, Ian. How are you feeling watching it?
Well, it's become somewhat of a trend as of late. 3 weeks in a row, or 3 Saturday games in a row, someone involved in the Canadiens game has been shut out.
Yeah.
It started back in December. The Canadiens shut out the Penguins. Then they got shut out by St. Louis last week on Saturday, and now shut out by Detroit on Saturday this week. I thought, as far as the goals that Detroit got, the one I think people were blaming Fowler for, and I don't really understand why, was the puck was rimmed around. It took a really weird bounce off of the boards and went directly to the slot, and he had moved behind the net to stop the puck.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are just on top of the goaltending criticism as of late, and they're like, "Oh, Fowler is too young; he can't be doing that." I'm like, guys, that would have happened to every goalie in this league.
Right,
In fact,
because he
something
made the
similar
right.
happened later last night in the Vegas game. Puck was going around the back of the net. It bounced off the boards. Aiden Hill didn't leave his net, but he looked around the other side thinking it had come around the back, and someone had to tap it on an empty net. These things happen.
Yeah. And I would argue that Jacob Fowler is making that move because he's actually knowledgeable, because he's played enough hockey to know that that's where the puck is going to go. And I was going to say something like 99 out of 100 times that doesn't happen, but it's more like, 999 out of every 1,000 times it doesn't happen.
Correct.
Right. So I made a joke about chaining the goalies to the goal, but I really think that Fowler made the right play. Then he talked about learning the lessons. There's some talk about the Zamboni door, which I wasn't 100% sure about, but just watching that, I feel like I don't know goaltending, but I do instinctually feel that Jacob Fowler was doing the thing that you're supposed to do as a goalie, which is follow where the puck is going to go. I do think, and this is something that people kind of criticize Nick Suzuki for saying, we had a good game, but Detroit got the bounces. I don't know if I 100% agree with him, but I don't think the Canadiens necessarily played badly. I just also think that Detroit didn't play as well as the score indicated.
Yeah, I think the bounces are a big part of this. I think last night, our Saturday night at the Bell Center was very odd. The puck was bouncing most of the first period. Guys were blowing tires all over the place. It was weird. It was weird that the puck just didn't seem to behave the way that anybody would have anticipated.
The ice was bad.
The ice didn't seem good. Someone had mentioned that it was warmer than usual yesterday or on Saturday in Montreal, so maybe that had something to do with it, but the ice was not in good shape. With all that said, Detroit played on the same ice. They came in and executed a really perfect road game, right? They came in, they didn't give Montreal much to cheer about, which is why I think we want to talk about Arber Xhekaj, because he did give the Canadiens fans something to cheer about. But with all that said, I think Montreal did not make life hard enough for John Gibson. It seemed like every save he made was a walk in the park. There was nobody in front of him until they had the net empty, and then they threw an extra body in front of him and decided, oh, well, now he can't see things. And pucks were just hitting him. He was, at that point, very fortunate, but the damage had been done. I find that when the Canadiens have a hard time scoring, it's because, one, they won't shoot. Two, when they do shoot, the only thing we hear is it hitting the glass behind the net, or this third option, which is they don't have any traffic in front of the goaltender, and life is super easy for them. So they'll learn from that. I hope they adjust. It's a quick turnaround. It's a busy week. Starting with the Detroit game, it's 3 games and 4 nights for the Canadiens, so they'll have plenty of time to rectify these problems. But yeah, that's sort of, these nights happen. It's not the end of the world. It stinks that it was against the team you're fighting for first in the division with.
Yeah.
And you only have one more head-to-head game against the Detroit Red Wings. So,
right.
It was a bummer in that respect.
And I think like part of it now is that like we've decided that the Canadiens have left the will they make the wild card spot behind, and now it's like it's all about being one of the top 3 teams in the division, and the longer they stay in that top spot, the better that bodes for them. Which is not to say that they can't reclaim that spot or they can't come out at the top of the division, but I think for me, it was more a situation where there weren't any bodies in front of Gibson, and they seemed to make it a little bit easy for Detroit. I think personally that Noah Dobson had a great game last night.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Noah Dobson is not the goal scorer of this team, but I thought he did a really good job. But I want to talk about Arber Xhekaj. Like, I don't like against Calgary. I think Calgary, or maybe even Florida, like it felt like he's had the best games as a Montreal Canadien in the last few games. I feel like he's really taken to heart the fact that Caden Gooley coming back means somebody is going to be left out. And I think he's really understanding that he needs to do something to stay in the lineup, especially since he's got contract negotiations coming up this summer.
Yeah, and what a luxury it is for the Canadiens to have a third pairing with Arber Xhekaj, who's probably a 6th defenseman that's probably just the role he's going to occupy. But to throw Caden Gooley on that pair when he comes back is, that's a pretty nice problem to have. Yeah. I think it from what I saw, it felt like it freed Arber Xhekaj up to do a little bit more. There were several instances in this game where Arber Xhekaj was in on the forecheck, which I know it will only feed the hunger of people who are saying, make Arber Xhekaj a forward. Stop that. We already have one of those. We have one of those. It's Florian Xhekaj. We don't need another one. That's just greed. It's biblical greed.
Yes. I want to say in the last week, we've had 6 mailbag questions, something like that. Like 3, 4, 5. There was a bunch of them being like, well, what about moving Arber Xhekaj up to forward?
And we've discussed that, right? Like
there's enough forwards.
There's enough forwards. 1, there's too many, actually. And 2, like, this doesn't happen. Defensemen do not get converted to forward very often. Like Brent Burns and Dustin Byfuglien. Like, those are the only real ones over the last, 20 years. Like, that's not... We can't continue to think that this is going to be something they do.
Yeah, I agree. But, back to Arber, I think that what he's done really, really well is positioning himself in the right moments and then making the right decision, right? Because too often we've seen he'll do that, but then pick the wrong thing to do, which is push a guy off as opposed to protect the puck or, something like that. And so I found that what I was really watching him, I was like, this person has done his homework. That's the whole time watching him the last couple of games, because he has been physical. He has been intimidating, but he's been really good at hockey at the same time.
Yeah, and I think the fear here is, and I talked to some folks on Blue Sky about it after the game. His advanced numbers were not good. His expected goals were poor. Possession numbers were decent. They weren't getting a ton of shots, but I guess what that means is they were getting more of quality while Xhekaj was on the ice. The challenge I have with that is that Arber Xhekaj is never going to be that kind of player.
Yes.
He's not going to be a possession driver, analytics darling. He is not a minute muncher defenseman. He is a moments defenseman, and those moments can be impactful. There was the one shift where he bowled over JT Compher twice. There was the shift where Patrick Kane is coming in on a partial break and Xhekaj just shoves him from behind and knocks him over, which is kind of difficult to do considering you're both moving in the same direction. He already has momentum going that way. That's a pretty tough play to make.
Yeah.
Like the expected goals, all of that's not going to do much for me. Like when I look at Arber Xhekaj and the way he plays the game, that's not what I'm judging him based on. I'm judging him on the moments. Whereas maybe a Noah Dobson, because he plays so much, you're judging him based on the larger volume of his work.
Yes.
I don't see Arber Xhekaj like that. That's why I still despite those numbers, I say Arber Xhekaj had a very noticeable game for the Canadiens. And had they been able to build off of any of that, he would have been a catalyst for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like 3 in a row. I feel like there's very few people in the league where instead of measuring them on numbers, you want to measure them on vibes. And the vibes with Arber Xhekaj lately are correct. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
say Imac, they're correct. He's doing the right things. And I loved seeing that, like that play you talked about with Patrick Kane, like, giant defenseman, fairly fast, like just like getting in the way of somebody who's like a skills like dynamic player. So
Yeah.
anyways, that is like, this is twice in the last week that we've praised Arber Xhekaj. But he's doing so many good things. So really, really excited about him. All right, up next, we're going to talk about the weekly recap and who came up big in the few games, because it wasn't a loss. It was actually 2 great games before that. And then later on, we'll have our weekly forecast. And that's coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. New year, big goals, and somehow even less time to cook. If you're trying to eat better, but you don't want to spend hours grocery shopping or meal prepping, Factor makes it easy. These are fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs so you can eat well without all the work. Factor meals are made with quality functional ingredients, lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no refined seed oils. Just real food that fits your goals, whether that's eating healthier, managing your calories, or getting more protein. I personally have been using Factor a lot lately because I started working out. And one thing that I find is that with Factor meals, I don't get hungry, right? Like they're very satisfying, they're delicious, but I'm not having that hunger that you first get when you like really incorporate working out into your life. And they also have new Muscle Pro meals. They're perfect when you want something higher in protein to support your strength and recovery. And it honestly makes sticking to your goals so much easier because all the food work is already done for you. So head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 off and use code lockedonnhl50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 off, code lockedonnhl50 off. Make healthy eating easier with Factor. All right. The Canadiens had 3 games this week, and they won 2 of them. They gave us a lot to be excited for. So I feel like it's not super fair if we just focus on that Saturday night Detroit game as the summary of the week that was. Ian, I know you were working. Were you able to watch all 3 games?
Yes. Yeah, I was able to catch all of them. It's funny, the week that started the first 2 games that started the week were their first 2 home games back in a long time. And they started a new trend at the Bell Center. Like this is the week of the wave to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I look back at this week, like it seemed like, the Canadiens went away on their road trip to end the end 2025 and to start 2026. And it seems like for the second year in a row, it has sort of reinvigorated not only the team, but the fan base. The fan base was excited to see them come back. They get back to Montreal, and it's a music festival environment in the Bell Center. It was unbelievable. Let's call it what it is. It's a Wednesday night game against the Calgary Flames, and that building was going to erupt if given anything happened.
Yeah.
That doing it against Florida again, as stinky as the Detroit game, and I'm glad we don't record right after games on Saturdays because this would have been a much more dour feeling to it. But looking back at the scope of the entire week, I still very much feel that this is one of the teams to beat in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
They're right around it.
Yeah.
And again, they're still not fully healthy. They're getting there. Maybe we'll talk about that this week because as we recording this, Josh Anderson skated at morning skate, which means he might be on the way back. It was an optional morning skate, but he was there.
Jake
Patrick
Evans skated on Saturday.
Jake Evans skated ahead of practice on Saturday. Patrick Laine and Kirby Dach skated in no contact sweaters. So it seems like guys are making the right steps to get back into games. Laine I find fascinating because I didn't think he was coming back until after the Olympics, but it's nice to have. So I think, this week to me, there's 2 things that signify this week for me: the wave and Alex Texier.
Yes.
He had 6 points in 2 games. 6 points in 3 games, technically, because nobody had any points in the last one. But like the first 2 games of the week, he 6 points. It was an insane week for him.
A hat trick. I one of my friends sent a text message being like, "Oh, Alex Texier scored a hat trick," and I was like, "No, he didn't." And then like a few minutes later, I had to be like, "No, actually, now he did."
Yeah, exactly. It feels very much like the was it Matthew Perreault? But he
Yeah.
scored a hat trick for the Canadiens. Like that's what the Texier hat trick felt like. I find it funny that the first hat trick and the first shutout of the season were from players who were not on the roster at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
Very, very silly. I've been trying to think like what's next. Like, I don't know, the first 5-point game from somebody is like Jason Robertson, who isn't even here yet. Like that's what I like. That's my mind immediately went to like, oh, that's next. That's what's gonna happen.
I like where your mind is at with Jason Robertson. Sorry. What did I want to talk about? I really like we talked a lot about Texier, but I want to talk a little bit about Nick Suzuki in those two games as well. I feel like sometimes he does things and we don't appreciate them enough, right? And I feel like he was also really, really, really strong in those games. And the story is going to be the wave. The story is going to be the Ole in the middle of the game, in the middle of the second period. We're not going to relitigate that again today.
Why aren't we? Why? Why are we not going to relitigate it? Because I was right that it's fine and nothing bad happens? Like, what are we talking about? The one you should have gone to, Laura, was the fact that they were down 1-0 against Detroit, went on the power play, and they started Oleg. That was, to me, that was
a little crazy.
That was very crazy.
That's what we do here, though.
For sure. Like, what's the harm in that? Look,
Yeah,
we're already losing. Like, you're going to lose the game because of that? No.
You're already losing. No, I think it's, I think it's just like such a good time to be a Montreal Canadien right now. And like one thing I want to point out real quick, I know, we're supposed to be doing the week as a whole and we will. There's a lot of talk about Detroit and being good, et cetera, but I think a large part of it has been John Gibson too. Like you can't
they finally have a goalie.
Yeah, you can't discount the work that they've done. But the Montreal Canadiens are doing this without goaltending. Or they had been up until, let's say, like the end of December. They've been doing it with poor goaltending. They've been doing that exact same thing with poor goaltending. Yeah. So I really, really want to point that out because now the goalies are figuring it out, right? Like they have Jacob Fowler, who, he allowed 4 goals, but like I think he was like fine last night. I think he was pretty good, actually. I just think it didn't go the Canadiens' way. But like now that Samuel Montembeault is putting together better performances, like I think Jakub Dobeš has not played since January 1st, so they're probably going to like throw him in the mix at some point this week because we're going to talk about it in a second. But they've got a lot of games this week. But like now that the goaltending is kind of getting better, I'm not going to say it's good. I'm going to say it's getting better. Like who knows what heights the Canadiens can reach? And then you like talk about all those injured guys coming back. Like I still look at this and in this division. I'm not scared of anybody. I'm not scared of Boston. I'm not scared of Tampa. I'm not scared of Florida. I'm not scared of anybody or Buffalo, who like is apparently a whole new team now that they fired their general manager.
Yeah, they're coming up. But you wanted to talk about Nick Suzuki, and I think it dovetails nicely with a point I wanted to make, which is the power play. The power play this week went 0 for 7. They did not score a power play goal in the 3 games this week. So I think those things are very related. I think our perception of how Nick Suzuki is playing is elevated when the power play is doing well because he's going to get a touch on most of those goals. Sometimes he'll end up scoring them. And when the power play stinks, especially with that first line still trying to figure themselves out. Yes, Texier had the hat trick and the 3-point night before that, but like they are not at the level of dominant that we saw when Slafkovsky was there. So, there's still room for them to figure this out. I really do wonder what the plan is for that top line. Because as much as I think Texier can play the role, obviously it'd be better if he was playing further down the lineup.
Yes.
And somebody of actual first line elite talent quality was there. And I'm curious what the Canadiens are going to do there. I genuinely don't have an idea. I know Blake Coleman was a name someone threw out. I don't know that that's a first line player.
That's not the guy for that spot. I get why the Canadiens might be interested in him, but that's not the guy for that spot.
No. So I think, Nick Suzuki, I think has been playing better defensively. I think his defensive play has, especially that game against Dallas, I thought he was phenomenal in a game where the Canadiens needed to be phenomenal defensively against a team like that. I really do. So much of the moves the Canadiens make at center are with the purpose of buoying Nick Suzuki and, like bringing in Phil Deneau, Kirby Dach being a second line center, having a second line center, like all of that is to help make Nick Suzuki's life easier so he can be purely elite.
Yeah.
But he has to, the end of that bargain is he has to be that. So, he's still, I'm not worried about Suzuki in any sense, but I think they figure out what to do with that line, and the power play kicks back on, I feel a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you're still looking at a point per game player right now, even without the power play being good or an option on his own line. All right. Up next, we're going to talk about the weekly forecast. We normally do this on the Tuesday episode, but because there's a Monday game, we're going to get into that right up next. This episode is also brought to you by Kuo. New year, new systems. This is a time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Kuo, spelled Q-U-O. The smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. I love how simple Kuo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets mixed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. That's QUO.com/lockedonnhl. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Before we get into our weekly forecast, I want to thank you all for making Locked On Canadiens your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. What you'll get is access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Canadiens compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. And you'll also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. So go to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, it is time for us to discuss our weekly forecast. There are 4 games this week. It is a lot. There is a lot. It's a lot. It's a big week. They're going to start off with the Vancouver Canucks tonight on Prime Monday Night Hockey. And then they have a Wednesday and a Thursday game and then a Saturday game. And I'm tired just like reciting that. And I forget the order of all the games now.
Yeah. So it's Vancouver on Monday. Then they're right into Washington on Tuesday night. Thursday at Buffalo, Saturday at Ottawa. It's why it's another reason why the loss to Detroit hurts, because it's a home game and the Canadiens have not had a lot of those. Vancouver will be the last one of the week, and then they're headed out on the road. So let's start with Vancouver. Vancouver's bad, Laura. They are last in the NHL. They have a -37 goal differential. They just lost 5-0 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I ask you this. Is this a trap game or a get-right game? Because I don't think those are the same thing. What resonates more with you?
Like a get-right game for the Montreal Canadiens?
Correct. Yeah. We're looking at this from their perspective.
It's a get-right game for the Montreal Canadiens. And the reason that I think that is I really was impressed with the way they played against Calgary. Calgary is not the bottom of the league, but it's definitely a bottom-feeding team, right? Sure. They did feed off the energy, like the Montreal Canadiens fans had missed them and were making that known. But I think, a large part of that is playing well as well in the building. And so, I really like the killer instinct that they had, not just against Calgary, but also against a good team like Florida. And I think the Habs have the opportunity to take control of the game and to really use their speed. And I really think that, you establish that from the first moment of the game.
Yeah. I think so too. This finishes the season series against Vancouver. Montreal beat them back in October. Wild one Saturday night in Vancouver. So I think I agree with you. I think this is a get right game. I don't think it's a trap game, because a trap game is you come in feeling perfectly good about yourself and then you get spanked by some team that's really bad. The Canadiens should look at this as we have to get back on track, and that's what a team. Sometimes the schedule hands you anvils. This is a gift. This is a gift from the schedule to get back on track.
The anvil is like on the 26th or 27th of January, like whenever.
We'll figure that out later. That's later them's problem. It's not today. Yes. Let's head to Washington. Washington's in the second wild card spot right now. Second half of a back-to-back for Montreal. Washington is third in goals percentage at 5-on-5. So just the pure goals that are scored at 5-on-5, they very much control the offense in the games that they play. Are we still expecting this to be a nasty one between these two teams that met last year in the playoffs, or have they gotten all that out of their system?
I don't think it's going to be nasty. I just think that like Montreal Canadiens know what they need to do. Like this is a team where like I'm a little bit more worried about like the Canadiens goaltending.
Who do you start?
So, who do you start?
Yeah,
Jacob Fowler.
You put Dobish in for that game? I don't disagree with that at all.
The home game. I don't know. We don't know this at the time that we're recording this. It's like way too early. But Sam's probably going to get the home game. Sam or Jacob Fowler. So then in the case that like they start Jacob Fowler on the Monday night, then on Wednesday, I feel like they would go to Sam. But personally, I would do Sam Fowler.
I think I would do Dobish against Vancouver, get him in there against a team that maybe they feel confident they can beat. And then I really want Sam to start to he played Washington earlier this year and he stunk. It wasn't good. I wanted him to come into that matchup with an air of there's unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to beat you guys.
Yeah.
And he didn't. I kind of want that to be the case on Tuesday night. So we'll see in that one. Buffalo is somehow in the first wildcard spot, Laura. They're 9-1 in their last 10. I believe this game for Buffalo is some kind of throwback event. I believe they're celebrating the 2000 Sabres. So Max Afinogenov will be there, I think. Very fun era of the Buffalo Sabres. Honestly, just as an impartial observer, like in my mind, when I think of the Buffalo Sabres, those are the ones I still think of.
Yes.
Like Danny Briere and Chris Drury and Spacek being there. Ryan Miller in net. Yeah, Ryan Miller. He was unbeatable back in that era of the Buffalo Sabres. So that should be a fun night. They'll probably wear those black goat head jerseys. Is Buffalo
Canadians
for real?
Love spoiling those.
Is Buffalo for real, Laura?
No.
You don't think so?
No. I think Buffalo's okay. I think Buffalo, I feel like Buffalo's gonna like make a lot of noise, but I don't know that I think that they're at the level of like a Tampa or a Boston or a Montreal or like Detroit. It took me so long to think of Detroit, even though the Canadiens just played them. I feel like I think it's really interesting because they've always had good pieces, and I feel like they haven't been channeling their energy the right way. You know what I mean? But I just think that they're just like a step or two away. Like I can strongly say that I feel like they've disappointed relative to expectations in the last 7 years. But I also think that like expecting that they are a bona fide playoff team right now is a lot. And I think that if they do make the playoffs, it's because other teams sucked, not they were good. But that doesn't mean I don't think that they're like on the way up. I just think that they're finally realizing potential that they had 5 years ago. It's finally manifesting.
Yeah, I think, they're in the first wild card and they're playing 900 hockey right now. That's not going to last forever. Eventually this heater will go down. They're not going to be playing at this. And it's just a matter of how badly do they regress? Do they regress to being a 300 hockey team, or do they regress to a 55 hockey team, 55 win percent hockey team? Because that might get you into the playoffs if you're Buffalo, but they're not going to play 9-1-0 in the last 10 hockey for the rest of the season. That's not realistic. That said, like I do think that their expected goals are pretty good. Like they're actually a decent team. It's just a matter of whether or not they can sustain this. That's one that I'm interested in seeing how the Canadiens match up and if they can slow down Buffalo in any meaningful way. All right, last one. Ottawa, Saturday night. Nothing of consequence is happening in Ottawa right now.
Not at all. We're not hearing anything about them. They've been quiet lately.
Second last in the Eastern Conference, last in the Atlantic. Laura, do we want to
wait? If they're second last in the Eastern Conference, who's last?
The Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh,
they're quietly back to being the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Got it.
Unfortunate, Laura. So when the Senators put out that statement about what was happening with Linus Ullmark and how there were rumors and they're not true And that was essentially the gist of the whole statement. I didn't know what they were talking about. And I had to ask you and Scott, what are they talking about?
Right.
Like, it is so Ottawa Senators to have something like this happen and make it 1,000 times worse by inserting somebody in your front office into the argument.
Yes.
Like, what a miscalculation by that front office.
So I've been thinking about this, and I still 100% agree that it is very much like I would not have done that, because it lent credence to a rumor that was posted anonymously on X and then later deleted. And a lot of people hadn't heard that rumor or were in fact dismissing it, as, like I was dismissing it. And then they come out with that statement. But like a couple of people have said this, and I feel like if the goal of the statement was for an audience of one, and that audience of one is Linus Ullmark, then that might have been the right thing to do, right? I still wouldn't have done it. I would not have done it. I would not have like lent any kind of credence to it. But I also thought about like, like people in the locker room asking Brady Tkachuk about that rumor, or Drake Batherson about that rumor. And like, I feel like this way they've allowed the narrative to be like, I think Brady Tkachuk said it, like he was like, so angry that he saw that, blah, blah, blah. I was so, but he said that I'm glad that Steve stood up for us, right? Like we all here in this room, we support Linus Ullmark and all of that. So like putting that statement out kind of opened the door to allowing, I think it was him and Stützle that were speaking on this.
Yeah.
And I still would not have done it, honestly. Like the rumor itself, like the rumors like that fly around NHL teams all the time. It's something where like, I just felt like they made it seem like it was something to be addressed when it shouldn't have been. And a lot of people are making like the what do you call it? The point that like, it wasn't about the players themselves, it was about the families. And the owner was coming out, Steve Staios was coming out like in favor of the families, or to protect the families, or to support the families. But I just think that, like I would not have done that. I would not have put out this statement. I would have waited for the media to come to me and say something like, we're not dignifying that with an answer.
Yeah. There's a level of this that is so Ottawa Senators to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because like what you said was the right way to do it. Wait for the media to come to the head coach or the general manager in some capacity and say, we're not dignifying that with a response, because it did not require a response. It just didn't. Like some guy says thing on Twitter and you guys have to freak out about it. Like this organization has not learned a single thing about how to manage a hockey team. They have not learned. On the ice, they're awful. Off the ice, they're awful. Like they have not figured it out. I don't understand what, and you have Elliot Friedman going on Saturday headlines on Hockey Night Canada being like, well, this is exactly why they did it. Thanks for carrying that water, Elliot. I hope it wasn't heavy. Like that was an insane thing to sit there and watch the Ottawa Senators put out their message on Saturday headlines and have nobody question why Elliot was being like, this is exactly why they did it. And it's actually a good thing. That's crazy to me. All of this
not a good thing.
Ottawa never change. I love seeing this happen to this franchise. Not the rumors and all of that, but just the complete self-owns are just so Ottawa Senators.
The vibes are not good.
Do anything about this. If players like this can't handle this sort of thing, I don't know what to tell you. Like you're playing in Ottawa, man. It's Ottawa.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, it's unfortunate that playing in the NHL comes with this, right? There's always going to be people speculating. There's entire forums dedicated to this kind of stuff. Like it's not something that we traffic in, right? Like we only talk about rumors that insiders talk about, right? And they're all hockey trade rumors. They're not personal life rumors that we talk about here. So like, I just think the fact that like you did that means that those people like get emboldened, right? Like they're like, oh, the team is paying attention to this now. Like we're just gonna talk about the sideshow. And I really, especially like right now in this climate of like scrutinizing everything that they do and like, everything that they wear, like what kind of message they're sending. Like I just feel like at some point, like these people are hockey players. We should just be talking about hockey.
Right. Well, and everyone will draw comparisons to the Bedard story from last year, where the Corey Perry story is what I should call it from last year, where Corey Perry, there were rumors about him and Connor Bedard having some kind of incidents that I'm not going to talk about on this show. and they had to come out and have a press conference about it. But the difference was they actually terminated Corey Perry's contract because what he actually did
was worse.
Was way worse. Yeah, like there was there's no comp for this because I, in my heart of hearts, believe none of what is this rumor is true. None of this happened. Like I completely believe that. The Blackhawks had to come out and be like, that's nonsense. None of that makes any sense. We are getting rid of him. It's for a different reason. You'll find out later. We actually can't tell you right now because it like involved an employee at the Blackhawks. Like there was a lot more there.
There was an investigation.
Yeah. This is the NHL schedule makers handing me and you a gift where we had an opportunity to actually talk about this and not force feed it into the show. Ottawa's on the schedule. We got to do this for free. It was great.
Why did I think it was Boston? Then it's the Ottawa game, right? So like I thought
Boston's the following Saturday.
And then the following Saturday after that is the Colorado Avalanche, right?
Yes, I think that's right.
So much. I just know the Avs are coming. I don't know if it's Saturday or not. It's a Saturday or not. I know the Avs are coming. We talked about scheduled losses last week, and that's why it's stuck in my mind. All right, so that is our weekly forecast. We went a little long, but sometimes we do that. All right, it is time for our trivia so that we can get out of here and focus our energies on Vancouver.
Yeah, let's hit last week's question. So the last question was, who was the last French-born player to score a hat trick in the NHL before Alex Texier did it against the Florida Panthers? Laura, the answer is?
It's Antoine Roussel, and I don't blame anyone if you forget that this guy's not a Quebecer.
Yes, that is correct. It is Antoine Roussel. He scored it on February 18th, 2017. It was not Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, so apologies for those who thought it was. But you know who didn't think it was? Joe Segreto, who got the answer correct. So thank you, Joe, for playing as usual. All right, let's stick with hat tricks. When was the last time the Habs had multiple hat tricks in the same season? So when was the last time the Canadiens had an 82 or any number of games scheduled, but they had multiple hat tricks within that same season? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below. Let us know how smart you are, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode of our program.
Yes, and you heard the man. So please, please, please participate in trivia. We love when you guys send us messages. Thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Canadiens today. Tomorrow, obviously, we will be recapping the Vancouver Canucks game and hopefully talking about a win. So make sure you're subscribed to and you follow this podcast everywhere so you get all the latest episodes. And you can find us all over social media. You can email us actually at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. We love that. You can leave comments in our YouTube. We also would love it if you will catch us on TikTok, Instagram, or Blue Sky. We're Locked On Canadiens, all of those places. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Canadiens ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you who are on video, we're going to send you right to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, please make sure your second listen of the day is NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL, because they have the recap of all the games, and sometimes you'll find us on there as well. I want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you all tomorrow.